So let's talk about the upcoming iPhone 12. Now, I've recently seen a video on the internet of the upcoming iPhone 12, and they pretty much had a fake prototype of the actual design of the actual product. And of course, when we're this late in the year when it comes to the iPhone, of course, that's most likely going to be a real prototype. So we finally know the design of the upcoming phone. And the interesting thing about the mock-up of the upcoming iPhone is the fact that it does resemble a lot of the iPhone 5's body language. A lot of people are actually saying it resembles more of the iPhone 4's body type, but then a lot of people are saying that this phone actually reminds them a lot of the current generation iPad Pro, and I can see where everybody's coming from, whether it's the iPhone 5's body style or some people saying the iPhone 4 or the iPad Pro. Regardless of what you think of this device and the design of this device, all I can really say is this device does look way different than what we currently have with the current generation iPhones, the iPhone 11s, and honestly, I'm all for that because I really do think it is about time that Apple does move away from that design. We've had that design for a while now, and usually Apple, ever since the iPhone 6 to be more exact, they've been wanting to keep the same design of their iPhone, so it is about time that we get a new design of the iPhone, of course, and I am glad they are going with more maybe of an iPhone 5, iPhone 4, iPad Pro situation when it comes to the design of this actual new iPhone. Now, the interesting thing with this prototype that somebody actually had of the upcoming iPhone, apparently this thing is going to be small. Granted, they did only get a sample of the small version, just a regular iPhone 12, and of course, just like Apple and other companies out there in the tech industry, they are going to be making multiple versions of the iPhone. It's not just going to be one iPhone 12, of course. They're going to cater to different people and different price points, of course. So, of course, we are going to be getting multiple iPhones, but the iPhone that they had was the base iPhone, the cheapest iPhone 12 that's going to be announced in the upcoming future. And apparently with that devices, it is going to be an extremely small device. It's going to be more smaller than you're actually anticipating. And apparently there were rumors floating around for a while that suggested the price of this thing was actually going to be somewhere around $750. But now it looks like that may actually be wrong. It may actually go all the way down to something like $700. And honestly, I can see that because I think the base iPhone 11 was actually, I think, $700 as well. It was a pretty I wouldn't say inexpensive device at the end of the day, but I also wouldn't say it was a very expensive device. So if you're going to increase the price of the base model iPhone, then you really have to give us a reason why you would increase the price. And I think Apple should honestly keep the base price of the base model down to like $700. There really is no need to actually increase the price unless manufacturing costs cost higher, or unless Apple just wanted to do it to see if people would actually buy the base iPhone at a higher price. But the thing that I really want to talk about is the fact that this phone is very small. I think it's actually even slightly smaller than the current iPhone SE, at least from what I've seen in this mock-up and from what I've seen of this prototype. Is if that's actually the case, then that's actually kind of sad, actually, because this phone really does feel like, the more I think about it and the more I see the mock-up of the cheapest iPhone 12, the base model, the more I think about it, I really do think that this should have been, or even could have been, the iPhone SE that everybody wanted. Because granted, if you look at the iPhone SE, the iPhone SE is a great device, but there is some things that really do hold that phone back. Like for instance, the biggest thing that holds the iPhone SE back is the fact that the design is a very outdated design. Sure, you do get that premium chip from the iPhone 11 line, but just the fact that the design is outdated, it kind of makes you feel like you have an iPhone from the past, or a smartphone from the past with, like, for instance, the home button and the outdated bezels, of course, and nobody really wants to buy a device with outdated bezels and a home button. And if you look at the competition and what the competition is actually doing in the cheap smartphone market, a lot of these Android manufacturers make these devices that are really cheap, sub $500 or around $500. And basically what happens is they make these devices with pretty medium-sized specs, and then they decide, instead of giving us all the specs in the world, they actually want to give us a more modern design. And honestly, that's what I really do feel like with the upcoming iPhone 12. I really do feel like the upcoming base iPhone 12 is going to be that phone for people who wanted a smaller option iPhone, and it really does feel like it could replace the iPhone SE. Granted, the only thing holding that phone back, the base model, is the fact that the iPhone 12 is going to be pretty expensive, at least way more expensive than the current iPhone SE, of course, that's already out on the market. And I don't think the people who are looking at the iPhone SE are necessarily going to be looking at the base iPhone 12 when that thing just hits, because it is for a different demographic with a different price point as well. And it's just pretty mind-blowing that that thing, again, is more smaller than the iPhone SE, and it's pretty crazy how it pretty much just accomplished everything everybody wanted out of the brand new iPhone SE. They pretty much wanted a modern design with that notch to pretty much give us a better screen to body ratio, and I agree, especially with what the competition is doing on the Android side. It's kind of a shame Apple gave us a really strong chip but then decided to skimp on the design and give us an older design. But I guess that does make sense, because they have to give a reason to why somebody would want an iPhone SE. If they put a really strong chip in it from the iPhone 11 and then they gave us a premium design from like the iPhone 10 era, then it would kind of be like, why even sell this device? You're not really losing all too much, and there's not really that gap between the base model iPhone, between the higher end iPhones, and they have to give a reason to why you would want to upgrade from the iPhone SE to like the base, at least base iPhone 11 and up when it comes to their smartphone line. So overall, this is just very interesting. I wasn't actually expecting the base iPhone 12 to be this small, to be honest, because looking at what phones are doing, most of the times phones keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But to have a base iPhone, that's the iPhone 12 apparently, that's going to be this small, that does mean this will be good for one-handed operation. And it really looks like they're focusing more on those people who want a smaller screened iPhone that can fit in your pocket more easily with a smaller device. And it does make sense, and there are people out there who this does target, just because not everybody wants a bigger smartphone. That's why actually some people do buy the iPhone SE, not just for the price of the device. They're actually looking for the smallest device possible. And if you're looking for the smallest device possible, of course, you're going to go with the SE. But the only downside to having the SE compared to other iPhones, like the other iPhone 11s that are currently out, is the fact that you are sacrificing in a lot of departments. Of course, you don't have Face ID, you don't have almost that bezel-less design, you have an outdated design, you have a home button, you also have a pretty underwhelming battery. The battery is not that great in that device, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of multimedia and things like that. So basically what I'm trying to say is, it is nice that pretty much they're trying to make a better, smaller phone for people who can afford a better, smaller phone, but just don't want to feel like that, well, the only option is the iPhone SE because that's all Apple has. They just assume people who want small phones want to pay less for their phones and get less features. So it is pretty interesting that now, if you want a small phone, it looks like you may have two options. You may still have the iPhone SE from 2020, and then you will have the base iPhone 12, which won't have all the features of every other iPhone 12, of course, but you will have that small, compact design that I know a lot of people out there actually gravitates towards, because it does make sense as a phone at the end of the day. And especially when smartphones don't really seem to be getting smaller as a whole, it really does seem the smartphone space keeps focusing on bigger phones each and every year. So it is nice they are going to have that option for people who want that option. And yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from My Tech News, signing out.